Have you ever looked at someone you care about and felt something you didn't want to admit, not because they hurt you, but because they moved forward and you didn't? Maybe they speak English fluently now. They have new opportunities, new confidence, new connections. And you're still here, watching, scrolling, wondering, what happened to me? This is not just a video. This is a mirror for the version of you that stayed silent while others grew. For the nights you watched language videos but never spoke. For the mornings you told yourself, tomorrow I'll start, and then didn't. And for the ache in your chest when someone else's progress feels like your personal failure. But what if I told you that jealousy is not your enemy? What if the pain you feel is proof that you still care? That deep down, you're not lazy. You're just scared. Scared it's too late. Scared you'll never catch up. Scared you'll stay behind forever. But here's what no one tells you. Jealousy, when used correctly, is not weakness. It's direction. And English? English is not just a language. It's a bridge from who you've been to who you still have time to become. So stay with me, because over the next few minutes, you'll not only learn English through story, you'll learn how to use jealousy as the most honest, powerful, unexpected force of transformation in your life. And by the end, you might not be jealous anymore. You might be ready. He didn't expect the jealousy. When he saw his friend walk into the room, speaking English so fluently, so confidently, the room lit up. People laughed, listened, respected him, and something deep inside twisted. It wasn't anger, it wasn't hate, but it felt ugly, heavy, like a quiet pain that had been hiding for years. Why him? He asked himself. Why not me? He remembered the nights they used to dream together, same goals, same struggles, same broken English. But somewhere along the way, his friend kept going, and he hesitated. My feelings have meaning, he whispered in English, practicing alone that night. He wanted to judge less and understand more, because the jealousy, it wasn't random. It had something important to say. He hated the jealousy, but he hated the silence more. He would scroll at night, see his friend's progress, and feel left behind. It should have been me, he thought, not out of entitlement, but out of grief. The grief of lost time, wasted potential, opportunities he let slip through his fingers while telling himself, I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow never came, and that's when the truth hit him. It wasn't envy, it was grief. Grief for the version of him that once believed, that once dreamed of speaking English, of working abroad, of having conversations that mattered. I miss the person I promised to be, he wrote in a notebook, the sentence trembling like his hands. That line, it wasn't just practice, it was confession. That night something shifted. He stood in front of the mirror, looked into his tired eyes and asked, who do I want to become? His reflection didn't answer, but his jealousy did. It said, you still care. And that care became his mirror. No more running, no more pretending he didn't feel it. He let it speak. And finally, he listened. He realized he'd been afraid of starting again, afraid he was too far behind, that it was too late. But the jealousy didn't want to hurt him. It wanted to guide him. It pointed not to his friend, but to the path he'd abandoned, a path still waiting, still open, still his. So he opened his mouth and spoke, this time, I will not stop. That night, he recorded his voice, a 20-second reflection in English. It was shaky, imperfect, full of pauses, but it was his voice, his first step. He said, I'm tired of being silent. I'm tired of watching. I want to become proud of myself again. And just like that, his jealousy became fuel, a strange kind of love, a compass pointing inward. But here's what most people don't realize. Jealousy is not a villain. It's a messenger. It shows us what we desire but deny, what we admire but abandon. And for him, it was never about his friend. It was about the version of himself he still had time to become, if only he dared to look deeper. Let's flip the script. If you want jealousy to ruin every good friendship in your life, here's the perfect recipe. Start comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Look at their success, their English, their confidence, And forget that they started before you, practiced while you scrolled, and stayed consistent when you gave up. That's how you turn inspiration into resentment. Easy, right? But there's a better way. Compare only to the version of yourself from yesterday. Yesterday, you is your only rival. Did you speak one sentence more than yesterday? Did you study even when tired? That's growth. Tiny, invisible, quiet growth. That's how you build confidence without comparison. So next time you feel that sting of envy, ask, did I grow today? Now, if you want bitterness, pretend you don't care. Act like their progress means nothing. Say things like, good for them, I'm just doing my thing, while silently avoiding every reminder of how stuck you feel. Fake indifference is poison. It delays your healing, so instead, admit it in English out loud. One simple truth like, I'm frustrated, I feel behind. That sentence, that's not weakness, that's freedom. If you want to stay stuck forever, avoid English. Yes, stop practicing because someone else got better. Make their progress your excuse to stay small. But if you want transformation, study for just 5 minutes today, even with fear. Shadow a video. Whisper a sentence. Look in the mirror and say, I'm learning slowly but surely. Progress doesn't care about speed, it cares about presence. Here's another tip for destroying relationships. See your friend's growth as a threat, not a signal. Let their fluency make you feel smaller. Jealousy loves to whisper, they're ahead, you're behind. But what if you asked, what is their progress trying to teach me? Maybe it's showing you your hunger, your potential, the door you haven't opened yet. Jealousy is a signal, not a sentence. Let's talk about the danger of silence. When you avoid conversations because you're ashamed of falling behind, you build walls, brick by emotional brick. And soon, what started as jealousy becomes isolation. That's how good friendships die, not with an argument, but with distance. If you feel this happening, pause, send a message. Something like, hey, I'm proud of you. I've been quiet, but I'm working on myself. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine using jealousy as an invitation to reconnect with your own dream, your own progress. Imagine telling your friend, you growing showed me where I stopped. That level of honesty can turn distance into depth. It's rare, it's uncomfortable, but it's how you turn envy into evolution. The truth is simple. Every jealous thought is a crossroads. You can either follow the path of resentment or the path of reflection. One leads to broken connections. The other leads to inner peace and personal growth. Most people don't realize they have a choice, but now you do. So what will you choose next? They started together, 2 friends, same dream, same starting line, but one of them studied English late at night, even when tired. He whispered vocabulary while brushing his teeth. He repeated phrases on the bus. Exhausted, yes, but hungry. The other, he said, I'll start tomorrow. Again and again, until tomorrow became years. The difference was invisible at first. Tiny habits, small decisions, but over time the gap grew. One spoke with ease, answered questions in meetings, made friends from other countries. The other stayed quiet. When the lazy friend finally saw how fluent the other had become, he didn't feel proud. He felt betrayed, not by his friend, but by his own excuses. And then came the silence. Jealousy built a wall between them. They didn't argue. They just stopped calling, stopped sharing. One felt guilty for growing, the other felt ashamed for stopping, and instead of saying, I miss you, they both said nothing. That's silence. It hurt more than any fight. But inside, the quiet friend was changing. One day, he did something brave. He said one sentence, not in anger, not in pride, but in practice. He looked at his reflection and said, I'm proud of you, speaking not to his friend, but to himself. That was the beginning of honesty, of healing, of hope. He picked up his phone, typed a message, deleted it, typed again. This time, he didn't try to sound perfect. He just wrote the truth. I've been distant, not because I'm angry, but because I was afraid. Seeing you grow reminded me of who I stopped being. He didn't know how his friend would respond, but pressing send felt like opening a door inside himself. The reply came a day later, short, simple, honest. "I get it. I've missed you too." That was all. But sometimes healing doesn't need poetry. It just needs courage. They didn't reconnect because jealousy disappeared. They reconnected because one of them grew strong enough to break the silence. That growth didn't come from a course. It came from discomfort, from owning his insecurity, from choosing to show up, not with perfect English, but with emotional honesty. And that changed everything. He wasn't just learning how to speak a language, he was learning how to speak his truth. But the real question was still waiting. Could he now turn that moment into momentum? Could he build a new version of himself, not the one who watched others grow, but the one who finally joined them? Jealousy is not just an emotion, it's a signal. Underneath the discomfort, there's direction. The moment you feel jealous, your brain is telling you something, not about them, but about you, about what you secretly want, about the dream you've silenced. Psychologists call it shadow desire. It's the part of you you've buried, but can't forget. So what are you jealous of? Their English, their courage, their freedom? Good. Now name it. Say it out loud in English. "I admire how confident she is when she speaks." That sentence may sound small, but it rewires your brain. It turns jealousy into clarity. It shows you the trait you hunger for. And that's where transformation begins. Here's the science behind it. Your brain doesn't just react emotionally to someone else's progress. It reacts like it's under attack. This is called the self-threat response. Deep down, your subconscious says, if they're winning, I must be failing. But that's a lie. Their success is not your regression. Repeat it. Their progress, my failure. Let that become your mental defense. There's another layer. Jealousy appears at the identity gap, the space between who you are today and who you could be. That gap is uncomfortable, painful even, but it's not a punishment, it's an invitation. Try this. Describe your potential self in English. "I am someone who speaks fluently, helps others, and inspires growth." The more you say it, the more real it becomes. Your jealousy doesn't hate your friend. It hates your passivity. It's begging you to move, to rise, to stop pretending you don't care. If you follow it instead of hiding from it, it will become your greatest teacher, your most accurate compass. Because jealousy, when studied with honesty, reveals your next step. So what do you do with it? You make one decision your future self will be proud of. Not tomorrow, today. Open a book, record your voice, shadow a 5-minute conversation, schedule a Zoom call with a language partner. One act of progress dissolves 10 thoughts of envy. Don't wait for motivation. Use the emotion you already have. Remember, the deeper the jealousy, the deeper the desire. If it stings, it's because it matters. That's why ignoring it never works. It always comes back until you listen, until you change, until you become the person your jealousy pointed toward. And that version of you? They're not far away. They're waiting behind your next brave step. And sometimes that step is not just about English. It's about becoming someone new, someone who doesn't compare but creates, someone who doesn't wish but works, someone who understands that every painful emotion is just a hidden message waiting to be decoded. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. There's a version of you that still lives in your mind. Not a fantasy, not a perfect version. Just the you who didn't give up, the you who kept going, who practiced English at night instead of scrolling, who said yes to uncomfortable growth instead of hiding. That version. You're not jealous of your friend. You're jealous of them, the you that never began. It's haunting, isn't it, to realize that your jealousy isn't about someone else's life, it's about the life you delayed, the life you still dream about when the room is dark and your phone is silent. Say it now. I'm ready to start now. Not next year, not when you're finally motivated. Now, speak the sentence even if your voice shakes, especially if it does. Jealousy is guilt in disguise. It's a mirror of the moments you said no to your potential. It shows you the years you betrayed yourself, not loudly but quietly, in tiny decisions. I'll skip today. I'm too tired. What's the point? Multiply that by 365 days, and suddenly you're not lost. You're just late, but not too late. Never too late. Here's something powerful. Write one English sentence you've avoided for too long. Maybe it's, I'm afraid of being judged when I speak, or I want to be proud of myself again. The sentence doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be true. Honesty is the first step out of envy. It clears the fog. It reveals the path. Growth begins with honesty, not with podcasts, not with inspirational quotes, with the courage to say, I'm not okay with how I've been living. When you stop pretending, you start evolving. And when you evolve, when you take action, jealousy begins to lose its power. Because you're no longer a spectator. You're a participant. So speak your truth in English, even if it's simple, even if it's awkward. Try, I feel behind, but I'm showing up. Or, I'm not fluent yet, but I'm brave today. These sentences aren't just grammar practice, they're identity practice. The more you say them, the more they shape who you're becoming. Jealousy starts to dissolve the moment you create direction. Set one English goal for this week. A tiny one, 5 minutes of daily speaking, 2 new vocabulary words a day. One journal entry in English before bed. Don't aim for perfection, aim for motion, because progress is the antidote to regret. And as you begin to move forward, you'll notice something strange. The version of you that you envied starts walking beside you, not as a ghost of the past, but as a partner for your future. Your brain doesn't know the difference between jealousy and ambition. To the neurons inside you, both are energy, both light up the same circuits. But one paralyzes you, and the other propels you. The key is direction. If you allow jealousy to drag you into shame, it becomes poison. But if you redirect it, that same emotion becomes rocket fuel. So next time you feel it, study. Right then, right there. This is called the emotional activation effect. When your brain is emotionally charged, memory becomes stronger. This is why we remember heartbreak, failure, embarrassment, but also inspiration. Use it. When you see someone speaking fluent English and feel that pang in your chest, don't scroll away. Open your notes, watch a video, repeat a phrase, turn comparison into connection. Here's a secret you weren't taught in school. Your brain has something called mirror neurons. These fire when you observe someone doing something, especially when you admire them. So if you're watching a fluent speaker, your brain is already rehearsing. It's practicing with you. Shadow them. Copy the sentence. Match their tone. This is how babies learn, and your brain remembers. Jealousy can make you remember more. Why? Because it links language to emotion, and emotion makes memory stick. So if you're learning the word courage during a moment you feel broken, your brain tags it as important. Try this. Learn 3 English words right after an emotional moment. Tie them to your story. Use them in a journal sentence that starts with, today I felt. Let's go deeper. Every time you take action despite feeling jealous, you rewire your identity. This is what psychologists call the behavior identity loop. You act differently, then you see yourself differently. Over time, your identity shifts from I'm always behind to I'm the kind of person who grows, and it all begins with action, not belief. So start small, 7 days, that's all. Create a simple routine. Day 1, record yourself reading a paragraph out loud. Day 2, learn 5 emotional words. Day 3, write a journal entry about jealousy. Day 4, shadow a native sentence. Day 5, speak in the mirror. Day 6, teach one thing to someone. Day 7, repeat your favorite exercise. Just 1 week can reset your brain. Here's a powerful insight. Motivation fades fast, but jealousy is persistent. So use it as a reminder, not of who you aren't, but of who you're becoming. Every time it visits you say, thank you for showing me what matters. Let it guide your attention to the exact place you need to heal, the exact skill you need to train. And if you really listen to it, you'll discover something shocking. Jealousy isn't the enemy of progress. It's the beginning of it. Something shifts when you stop competing and start evolving. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer secretly hope your friend fails just to feel better. Instead, you smile at their progress and say, "I'm on my way too." This is the energy shift. You've moved from resentment to growth, and that shift, it changes everything, including your friendships. You start to notice your own progress. The first time you speak a full sentence without translating. The day you respond to a message in English without fear. These tiny wins become your fuel. Practice this. Say out loud, "I'm not fluent yet, but I'm becoming more confident every day." Celebrate that sentence. Own it. That's the sound of growth. And here's what happens next. You become less reactive, more intentional, less focused on what others are doing, and more focused on what you're building. You stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and start asking, "What's my next step?" That question is power, and it leads to quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need applause. Then something beautiful happens. People around you feel the change. Friends trust you more. You stop being the jealous one or the silent one. You become the encourager, the one who celebrates progress, yours and theirs. Want to build that? Start today. Have one supportive conversation, just one. Say something like, "I saw your video. You've improved so much." It's simple, but rare. When you grow, you create space. Space for better conversations, for better energy, for collaboration instead of comparison. Suddenly, your progress isn't lonely. It becomes shared, and the friendships that once felt fragile become deeper. Because you're not hiding anymore, you're showing up. Even the world starts to respond. People invite you to conversations. Opportunities come your way, not because you're the most advanced, but because you radiate movement. Progress attracts progress. Energy attracts energy. And when you use English in new social situations, even just once, you begin to see the truth. Fluency builds connection. Here's a practical step. This week, use English in one new situation. Maybe order food in English, join a language group online, comment on a YouTube video in English. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. What matters is this: you participated. That act alone separates you from the version of yourself who only watched. And in that moment, you're no longer chasing your friend. You're walking alongside them as equals. Not because you caught up in skill, but because you grew up in mindset. He sat in silence, asking himself the question that had haunted him for months. Why was I jealous? The answer wasn't about his friend. It was about reflection. Because when he looked at his friend, he saw a version of himself, bold, consistent, fluent. And it hurt. Not because his friend left him behind, but because he left himself behind. "That version is still possible," he whispered in English, as if reminding his soul it wasn't too late. He looked back at the choices he didn't make, the nights he chose comfort over practice, the videos he watched but never repeated, the words he knew but never spoke. And still, there was no hatred, just sadness, a quiet longing to try again. "What changed me?" he asked. And the answer was simple. He chose growth instead of comparison. He stood in front of the mirror, not to fix his accent, not to look fluent, but to speak from a deeper place. He said, "I'm not who I want to be yet, but I'm proud I didn't give up." And that sentence shook something loose, because speaking your truth, even in broken English, is how healing begins. He no longer feared mistakes. He feared silence. So who is he becoming now? Not a perfect speaker, not the best student, but someone honest, someone consistent, someone who chooses creation over comparison. He says, "My path is mine. Not better, not worse, just different, just real." And now, instead of avoiding his friend, he feels grateful. That friend's growth had become a mirror, a wake-up call, a reminder that change is always possible. They're no longer in competition. They're walking their own paths, both growing, both learning, both human. The old jealousy, it didn't vanish overnight, But it no longer had power, because now it had purpose. Every pang of comparison became fuel. Every English word practiced became an act of self-respect. Growth wasn't a goal anymore. It was an identity. So what happens next? He records his voice. A 20-second message just for himself. I'm not catching up to anyone. I'm catching up to me. Every day, one word, one action, one truth at a time. And with that, he doesn't look back again. He looks forward to the life still waiting to be built. So, who are you jealous of? And more importantly, why? Because behind every comparison is a clue about the version of you that still wants to grow. The version of you that's tired of watching from the sidelines, tired of being stuck in silence, tired of letting fear wear the mask of laziness. You've now seen it clearly. Jealousy is not just emotion, it's a mirror. It reflects your blocked potential, your unlived life, your paused progress. But mirrors are only painful when you refuse to look. Once you face them, they become windows. So let me ask you, what part of yourself did you abandon? What truth have you avoided saying out loud in English? And if your future self could speak to you right now, what would they beg you to begin? Use this story, use this emotion, use your English, not just to learn a language, but to learn yourself again. Because fluency is not about sounding perfect, it's about becoming fully expressed in any language, in every moment. So if this story made you feel something real, do one thing. Leave a comment right now in English. Tell me, what did this video reveal about you? Even just one sentence, that's how your new chapter begins. And if you want more videos that feel like story, therapy, and transformation all in one, hit subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications, because this channel isn't just here to teach English. It's here to remind you of who you still have time to become.